In what ways does your media product use, develop, or challenge forms and conventions of real media products? When creating Vigilance, numerous hours of research into the typical conventions of horror thriller movies took place, allowing me to decide which of these conventions I wanted to develop or challenge. A common convention often seen within horror films is avoiding showing the audience the identity of the narrative's antagonist to help build enigma and tension. A film in my research that used this convention expertly was Halloween, using this to conceal the identity of the psychotic killer Mike Myers. During the second scene of my short, I used this convention filming a similar POV shot of my antagonist, with the character witnessing Trevor's bedroom light turn off, collecting a knife from the drawer, walking up the stairs, and eventually standing over Trevor's bed. I feel as though I was able to develop this convention through such techniques like unique lighting. Originally, in Halloween, the lighting is very much high-key with little use of shadows. My version of the POV shot, however, evidently developed from this by using low-key lighting in these shots to create unique shadows on the wall and reflections on the knife. I found another typical convention of the horror genre was the use of demonic whispers coming from the protagonist's mind. This convention can be seen in a short film I researched, titled Hallucinations, as well as the film The Machinist, which both use these voices to depict oncoming danger. This largely appealed to me, and I therefore decided to use this convention in my final product. Over most of the clips in the first scene, I've included a demonic whisper sound effect from YouTube, which highlights my use of the convention. However, I wanted to further develop this convention of voices in my character's head, and so I did this by recording original audio of Trevor whispering certain phrases, accompanied by visuals of Trevor appearing in a sort of limbo state. This in turn enabled me to effectively use and further develop the convention of demonic whispers in horror films, as well as allowing me to be more postmodern and unique. Horror movies also generally possess certain props as conventions to depict certain meanings. These can include such things as antiques or weapons. In my production, I chose to use this convention in the form of using a large, sharp knife as a reoccurring prop, in which I was once again inspired by the film Halloween. This convention of the large, sharp knife in horror films is one I have only used in my production. However, doing so has enabled me to enhance the postmodern feel by including an intertextual reference. Films that fall under the postmodern genre generally tend to use the convention of self-consciousness. This is when the film draws attention to the fact that what the audience is watching is an artificial, edited product. This convention can famously be seen in Tarantino's Pulp Fiction, in which one character says, "Don't be so square," followed by creating the shape of a square with their hands. This in turn was a reminder to the audience that they're merely watching a film through a square screen. I found doing this as a rather interesting and creative decision, and so developed on this convention by drawing attention to the editing through numerous glitches Trevor experiences. By using the masking tool in Final Cut Pro X, I was able to create a glitch effect on certain parts of the screen, such as on Trevor's body, the watch, or the knife. By developing on this convention, by drawing attention to the editing through glitch effects, I feel that my short film was able to become more postmodern by using the technique of self-consciousness with the audience. How effective is the combination of your main product and ancillary texts? In the creation of my short film poster, I wanted to make sure to include certain features that related to various aspects within my film. I primarily did this through the inclusion of the image of a shattered pane of glass covering the right side of my poster, so to present an underlying theme of my production of illusion versus reality. This theme is one that falls under postmodernism and allowed me to explore this concept by creating such sequences as the glitch effects, as well as the altered reality sequence in the fourth scene of my short. The shattered glass was used to depict the juxtaposing emotions felt by my film's protagonist. Being an insomniac, Trevor would go through various stages of emotions. I made sure to highlight this in my poster by imposing smaller images within certain shards of broken glass that showed Trevor feeling fearful and angry, as well as the main picture of Trevor looking blankly at the camera as if numb from his condition. I used postmodern influences within my poster by changing some of the images to appear black and white. I chose to do this so to reflect how Trevor, because of his condition, no longer sees the world in a colourful way, and so I wanted to place the audience at the perspective of Trevor, also creating a contrast of colour versus darkness to reflect the theme of illusion versus reality. Another influence from postmodernism was an intertextual link I made to the film poster for Final Destiny. From this, I was inspired to use an image of shattered glass in a similar fashion. I initially used a Google Images photo of smashed glass, however, I later realised I needed an original photo of this and felt by doing this would show a higher level of uniqueness and creativity. I achieved this image by smashing an unneeded test tube in a controlled environment, creating numerous different small pieces of glass that I then arranged into a position to seem as though it had been penetrated through the centre. This glass was a very prominent aspect of my poster, mirroring the shattered state of Trevor's emotions. Another similarity that can be seen in both my short and my poster is the use of a specific text font. To present the title of my production in both the short and the poster, I have used a text from the website 1001 Fonts titled Insomnia, one which I thought was rather fitting because of the film's covering of the condition. I ultimately decided to incorporate this font into my coursework product as it contained numerous scratch-like marks that I took a liking to. I felt as though these helped connote a sense of oncoming danger and expresses how this mental illness can be both mentally and physically damaging. Furthermore, for the tagline of my poster, I used a text titled "I Tell You All My Secrets." I similarly chose this font due to the connotations it possessed, with many insomniacs experiencing voices in their head telling them secrets essentially, as well as the fact that the font created a sort of glitch effect, similarly to the glitch throughout my production and within my credits. When creating my film review poster, I wanted to further depict Trevor's insomnia, and so did this by including various original photos altering from those I used on my poster. These photos include Trevor striking such poses as holding his head in his hands, as well as holding his hand out in front of him in defense from an oncoming knife. By incorporating numerous pictures of different emotions of Trevor, I feel as though I have been able to present the juxtaposing emotions that are an inevitable byproduct of insomnia. Additionally, within my film review page, I created my text in a way so that it would look distorted, bending and curving around the images I used. I made my text this way to further support the primary theme of illusion versus reality, with the bending text essentially being the illusions and the normal layout of the text at the top of the review portraying the reality. Audience feedback played a pivotal role in the final product of my short film, following John Hartley's theory of the importance of building a relationship with the audience. In pre-production, I played with covering the topic of homelessness, disability, and insomnia. I ultimately discovered what my audience wanted by sending out SurveyMonkey questionnaires to my target audience to collect primary research. By analysing my results, I found that my target audience of 16 to 25-year-old cinema goers desired a short film about insomnia with a male protagonist, social realist aspects incorporated throughout, with much of my audience possibly being able to relate to the issue of sleepless nights. I used the Web 2.0 tool of SurveyMonkey, which proved rather beneficial, enabling me to hand out my questionnaire to a bunch of my Year 13 peers at a time that was convenient for them. Learning of my audience's preferences, I was then able to start forming my product to their desires as well as mine. I didn't always follow advice from my audience, however. My questionnaire revealed a desire for social realism. However, I chose to make my short film equally postmodern, to be able to include various stylistic edits, such as the numerous glitch effects, as well as the visual and audio filters. During production, I departed from SurveyMonkey, alternatively using structured interviews to collect my feedback, discovering aspects of my short that my audience enjoyed, such as the continuous ticking noise in the first scene, as well as the glitch effects. I therefore made sure to keep these aspects in my edit, as they were identified as compelling to watch. I was able to further enhance on certain sections of my short by using additional effects such as the Bad TV and masking tool in Final Cut Pro X, which allow me to place effects in certain areas of the frame. These in turn additionally contributed towards the overall creativity of my product, allowing me to experiment with various stylistic forms of edits, such as the glitches. I additionally learned of common complaints of my audiences, such as sound effects to replicate the sound of walking. I struggled to find an effective sound effect to use for this, and as a result, my audience complained, labelling it as too loud, comedic, or unnatural. To cater for my audience, I instead removed this sound effect and sped up the footage, including a TV static sound effect, and Bad TV and Prism visual effect over the footage to make it appear as if a glitch. After showing my audience this updated version, they responded more positively than before, labelling it as postmodern and unique. My primary research of questionnaires also enlightened me on numerous improvements that needed to be made. One response highlighted that a lot of the sound effects needed to be made quieter to be more effectively used, such as the ticking noise in the first scene of my short, as well as the sound of the birds at the very beginning. Returning to editing, I made these two sound effects a lot quieter, so to not distract the audience from more important aspects of my short, such as the glitches. Furthermore, another response identified that my short film would benefit from including Foley sounds, which are sounds that are artificially made. Noting all sections that could include these Foley sounds, I independently recorded these on my phone and incorporated them into my edit. Examples of this in my short include the writing, the peeling of the post-it note, as well as the breathing in the final scene, which my audience ultimately deemed as effective. Lastly, my use of a typewriter sound effect when my title appeared on screen, letter by letter, was deemed somewhat cliché. To please my audience and improve this, I therefore decided to record additional audio of Trevor, saying phrases to mimic voices in his head. My audience favoured this over the simple use of a typewriter sound effect, labelling it as original and interesting to watch. I sent recent drafts of my coursework to friends via Facebook, in which they replied with paragraphs telling me of what they thought. This feedback once again told me parts of my short that needed improvement, such as the sound effects, as well as highlighting parts that my audience liked, such as the creative use of framing. Through collecting this feedback over Facebook, I was able to further create a product that appealed to my audience, which was free and simple to conduct. In post-production, I created another SurveyMonkey questionnaire to discover whether I had fulfilled the desires of my audience. I gave this survey to my target audience, in which they pointed out such strengths as the visual effects, framing, and use of sound effects. However, noting that certain shots needed to be colour graded, which was easily fixable. Overall, by implementing research into each stage of production, I was able to produce a final product which catered to the desires of my audience, and so producing a more interesting final product. How did you use media technologies in the construction and research, planning and evaluation stages? Throughout the AS level course, I quickly adjusted to the learning curve it took to effectively use such software as iMovie, Final Cut Pro X, and various Web 2.0 tools like Prezi, GoConquer, and GoAnimate, which I have been able to apply to my studies at A2. When I began the A2 level course, I researched various aspects of postmodernism as well as theorists and short films, and so formatted a blog using the Web 2.0 tool WordPress, which I had gathered a comprehensive understanding of at AS. On my blog page, I presented my research into these various aspects through such Web 2.0 applications like Canva, which I used to portray my research of the hypodermic syringe audience theory, as well as Prezi to present my genre research on Richard Dyer. Using these helped create a more effective platform of information that is more engaging for the audience to watch, as well as installing a sense of professionalism into my work. The Web 2.0 tool of GoAnimate was another application I favoured throughout my studies. The website proved simple to use whilst providing myself with professional-looking animations that would be more engaging in presenting my research. I used this to create such animations on my blog such as Castells and Hull's representation research on ethnicity, which allowed me to investigate the theory at a greater extent by including vast amounts of information, as well as being able to look back on these animations to apply the theory into the planning of my short. My use of media technologies additionally improved in the field of editing. My studies at AS level saw the use of beginner's video editing software iMovie, whereas at A2 level the high demand that came with editing our short film required the use of Final Cut Pro X. With no prior knowledge on the software, I struggled at first with effectively using the application. With much practice, however, from the editing of our preliminary task, independent practice, as well as editing my short film, I managed to form comprehensive skills on the software, such as identifying shortcuts like the A key for the mouse, as well as using the B key for the blade tool, easing the editing process by allowing a more efficient method of editing. This in turn contributed in the formation of a more effective final coursework product, being able to use these tools in the creation of such visual effects as the numerous glitches. During editing, I experimented with the pre-installed video and audio filters, which can evidently be seen in the first scene for the limbo footage and audio of Trevor. Furthermore, I implemented various transitions that can additionally be seen at the beginning and end of the third scene of my short, using a swipe transition to gradually move the audience away from the melancholy Trevor. I feel as though by using such transitions to move from one scene to another helped improve the fluidity of my product, allowing the audience to forget they're watching an edited product, but rather a fluid production. In addition, the use of visual and audio effects can evidently be seen throughout my production. These effects were heavily implemented throughout the first scene of my production through using the Bad TV and Prism visual effects, and the echo and distortion audio effect to help portray Trevor in his dazed limbo state, essentially also helping become more postmodern. Photoshop CS6 is another application I learned to use at A2, in which I used in the creation of both my film review as well as the poster for my short film. Similarly to Final Cut Pro X, this technology required time to adjust to the demanding features it had to offer, like the concept of layers as well as discovering how to use such tools as the gradient and text feature. With time and practice, however, I quickly adapted to the software to effectively create my film review page as well as my film poster. As will be used in the recording of the third evaluation question, a green screen will be used to allow me to remove the background of the footage of myself talking my question 3 response. This will be done by hanging a green blanket to the wall, evenly lighting the surface so to reduce any shadows. In Final Cut Pro X, I will be using the Keyer video effect to enable me to remove the background of the footage and instead allow me to replace it with other footage from my short film and other visuals, etc. Whilst doing this will highlight an advanced use in media technology, it will also help in being able to address the audience more formally and directly, as well as engaging them with what's happening.